Hi guys, my name is Sydney Morris and I'm doing this video to help out Professor Dungenson with things that I wish I had known my freshman year. And just to give a little background about myself, I am a 5th year at San Jose State. I'm graduating in the spring of 2018. And I'm originally from Riverside, California, which is Southern California, so in between like LA and San Diego. And I'm not a first generation college student. Both my parents have their bachelor's degrees. My dad got his bachelor's when I was in high school, and my mom actually ended up going back to school and getting her master's when I was in high school as well. So I've always been around higher education. My mom actually has worked for a university since before I was born. So she worked at UCR and then recently is working at UCI now. So higher education definitely was something that was very important to my family. So yeah, these are just a few little tips that I've kind of picked up along the way of going through my college experience, as well as talking to some of my other friends who are also 5th years and graduating seniors. Being broke is normal. Even as a graduating senior, I'm still broke all the time. It just kind of comes with being a college student. I think everybody kind of knows it. No one really likes to talk about it, but it's just a fact of life. There's just no way that, especially living in the Silicon Valley, that you're not going to be broke at least one semester of your life. Freshman year, definitely, I wasn't as bad just because I didn't really have that many expenses, but as the years go on, you definitely kind of develop more and more expenses that you end up having to pay for, whether it's like you end up bringing your car up here or you start living off campus. So you have other expenses besides just paying your rent. You have to pay PG&E, which is your electricity, and pay for Wi-Fi, so Comcast, and things like that. So everyone's experience is a little different when it comes to money and things like that. So when you're a commuter, you save definitely a lot more money than people who are living on campus, just for the simple fact that, you know, most of the time you're not really paying for housing because you're staying at home or whatever the case may be. My second tip is that you don't need to buy all your books from the bookstore or even buy a lot of your books at all. I went this whole last semester without buying any books, barely even. I think I just ended up finding like old versions and downloading them from Google. So basically, you can do that by just typing in the name of the book and the author on Google, and then just typing in like PDF at the end of it. And as long as if your professor's okay with older versions, then I don't see a reason to end up buying the book in the first place. And then also, if you do absolutely need the book, a really good website is directtextbooks.com. They give you cash back for renting from their website anyway, and they give you a whole bunch of different options so you can rent, and it'll show you the prices from Amazon, Chegg, and like other places like that, and then you can choose whichever one that works best for you. And I'll put the link in the description bar down below just so you guys have a reference if you want to use that. I definitely use that starting my freshman year just because it's so much easier, especially because you guys are taking a lot of GE classes. So you definitely don't need to keep these books at all. It's just you need them for the semester, and then afterwards you just want to discard them. So basically, renting is your best option because they're usually around, I want to say, $30 to $40 if you rent, as opposed to buying your textbooks, which can be anywhere from $100 to $200 for a textbook. So definitely look into directtextbooks.com. Thirdly, I want to talk about Rate My Professor. Rate My Professor is a great website to help you kind of figure out what your professors are going to be like and kind of what to expect from them, but also definitely don't just rely on Rate My Professor, because I've definitely had to take professors that had terrible ratings on Rate My Professor and they ended up being 100% fine. A lot of times if people are getting, or professors are getting bad reviews, it's because the students actually don't want to put in the work. And by putting in the work, I mean they don't want to go to class, they don't want to have a lot of homework and things like that, and that's fine, but at the same time you're also in college, so you can't sit here and expect every professor to sit here and not give you guys a bunch of homework or anything like that. So definitely look at Rate My Professor, but don't sit there and say I'm not going to take the class because all the professors are bad, because you'll just end up spending a longer time at San Jose State, and you don't want to do that, trust me. Next, I want to talk about stepping out of your comfort zone. When I first got to state, I was definitely a very shy and quiet person, and I lived in Joe West, shout out to the 12th floor penthouse, and it's very different because it's communal, and basically you kind of have to talk to people, and as much as it forces you out of your comfort zone, it'll definitely help you in the long run. I ended up becoming really, really close with everybody on my floor, and we would go out to parties and go out to dinner and things like that. So it's definitely a very good experience, as well as going to events on campus. That's another really big one. There's a bunch of free events on campus that you can go with your friends, like people on your floor, and you can get free food, and sometimes, well, now they're starting to do free concerts. They didn't do that when I was a freshman, but yeah, there's at least like one free concert every semester, or no, every year I should say, usually at the beginning of the fall semester. And then also there's club sports that you can join and make friends that way as well. There's sports like tennis, baseball, basketball, volleyball, and then there's even like some crazy sports like Quidditch. So if you're a really big Harry Potter fan, they definitely have that. And you can also start a club team if you want. I don't really know exactly how you can do it, but I'll definitely link it in the description bar down below. Another thing I want to mention about stepping out of your comfort zone is when you go to parties or anything like that where you're just meeting new people, don't be afraid to sit and talk to someone who's sitting next to you, or just someone you think is cute who's like, you know, across the way. Girls, definitely don't sit here and think guys are just gonna come up to you and start talking to you, because that's definitely not the case. So don't be afraid to go out and talk to guys, to start a conversation. Say you like their shoes or something stupid, they'll love it. And guys, the same thing goes for you. Just because you stare at a girl doesn't mean she's gonna immediately come talk to you. Like, please go talk to her. She's not gonna bite you. And also make sure that you're not being creepy. That's another really big one. Guys don't realize when they're being kind of creepy or too much. So if some girl's kind of giving you like that vibe and she's like put off by what you're saying, like tone it back, or think it's time for you to walk away. Just know when to do that. And also, friends, help them out. Girls, if you have guy friends who are just like being creepy, you need to tell them so they can understand that that's not okay and to fix it, because if not, they're just gonna keep doing it and it makes people very uncomfortable. So please keep that in mind. Next, I want to talk about being homesick. I definitely got homesick more of my sophomore and junior year than I did my freshman year, just for the simple fact that freshman year I was around so many people that there wasn't really any time for me to get homesick, except when it came to like the very end, and that's just because I was tired of basically living in communal dorms. But yeah, homesickness is not something that has a cure, obviously, but I think one of the best ways that I kind of combated like being homesick was to keep myself occupied, whether it was like studying or, like I said, joining sports teams or anything like that that just keeps you busy, so you don't have really a second to sit there and just be like, damn, like I miss home, like I miss my friends, like everything like that. So definitely be involved in as much as you possibly can so you don't get homesick, because it is awful and is kind of very hard to like get out of that funk, you know. So also talk to people, also talk to like your friends. Like I had a lot of friends who were also from Southern California and they'd get homesick too, and we would just kind of talk about like what we liked about being home, but also like kind of kept each other like, hey, like let's go do something, you know, rather than sit around and just like talk about how much we miss home. So that's definitely another good one. On a more serious note, I want to talk about knowing your limits. This can be have various meanings. One of the meanings I'm talking about is if you're uncomfortable in a situation or you don't want to do something, that is a limit. Don't push it. Don't try and force yourself to do something that you really don't want to do. Honestly, if you don't feel like going to a party or you feel uncomfortable at a party, then you need to tell a friend or tell someone like, hey, I don't feel comfortable here. I'm going to leave. Can you come with me? Or take an Uber home, whatever the case may be. But please don't put yourself in situations where you feel uncomfortable. Or if you do end up getting into a situation where you feel uncomfortable, definitely just find an Uber or find somebody to take you home. Also, to go with that is alcohol. It's very important to know your limits when it comes to alcohol. Alcohol can get you into a lot of trouble, especially during tailgate season, so during football season. You guys are all basically minors, so you guys can get minors in possessions. If you don't know what that is, an MIP is basically that you have alcohol, even if you're just holding it and it's not open. If a cop sees you, that is a minor in possession and you will get cited for it. You do have to pay a fine. I do know people who have gotten MIPs. It's not something that you just want to go through, so please know your limits when it comes to things like that, as well as when it comes to just drinking in general. If you're constantly throwing up every time that you drink, that means you're drinking way too much. So please watch out for your friends. I know it can be frustrating to have to sit there and babysit them, but don't leave them on the side of the street. Don't leave them at parties, because I've seen it happen way too many times. Please don't do that. Call them an Uber or get in the Uber with them and take them home or take them to your house, whatever the case may be. People make mistakes all the time. Sometimes it happens when you're drinking, and yes, it might mess up your night, but I'd rather that they get home safe and that nothing happened to them, and you can be mad at them in the morning and they can buy you food and make it up to you the next morning. So please keep that in mind. Also, after a night of drinking, please make sure you drink water before you go to bed. Drink a whole bottle of water. You will thank me in the morning. This is another thing. I'm not going to stress this or talk about it too much because I'm sure you guys have heard many stories about this, but especially this goes for boys mainly, but this can happen with girls too. No means no. Always ask for consent. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. This is something that happens all the time at parties and everything like that. If someone is saying no, don't take it as a joke. No means no. Leave it at that. And if somebody's way too drunk to even give consent, then you shouldn't be doing anything to them, even if they are saying it's okay.